Alright guys, today we're going to take a look at Chapter 4, Section 4, where we're going to use this idea of if we have two congruent triangles, then their parts are automatically congruent. That's really the big picture thing today. Okay, so this thing is referred to as CPCTC. It says that corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. This should make sense. Like if I tell you that me and Mr. Childress both drive the same exact car, how big, like the same exact car, everything is the same, and then his tires are a certain size, then my tires are going to be the same size too, without you knowing anything about the tires, but I've already told you that the cars are exactly the same. Just like, same thing, but with triangles. So the important thing is, if we know that two triangles are congruent, every pair of their corresponding parts has to be congruent. And the be careful part is where you have to be careful, shockingly. It's only used to prove parts congruent after you prove the triangle is congruent. So this has to be done after you prove the triangle is congruent, not before. So let's take a look at how we could do this. Okay, we have these two triangles. Okay, and then we're told explain how we would use angle, how we'd use all this with CPCTC to prove this. So that's not marked. Okay, but here's what we do know. That's 90, which means that's 90. This is reflexive. Okay, so now I know that triangle ABD is congruent to triangle CBD by side angle side. Because of that, I can say angle A is congruent to angle C by CPCTC. Really simple stuff, okay? Let's take a look at another one. Same exact kind of problem. So how are we going to prove HE and FG? Well, we have two triangles, an angle and an angle, angle and an angle, and we have this shared side. So again, triangle. And I'm going to be very careful about my order here. I go from E to F to H. So because I started at E, I'm going to go to G. I went to F first, which is the one, the angle with one congruency marker. So I'm going to go to H, and then I'm going to go to F. So those are congruent by angle, side angle. Hopefully you said that. And then I can say that HE is congruent to FG by CPCTC. Okay, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Let's take a look here. Here we have two triangles congruent by, you said it, angle, side angle. All right, so I can say triangle KLJ is congruent to triangle PMN by, maybe I said angle, side angle. So K is congruent to K. Yikes. Angle K is congruent to angle P by CPCTC. Even though we didn't say anything about them, we know they're congruent. They're in the same spot in the congruency statement. They are corresponding parts in congruent triangles that are congruent. All right, so with congruent triangles, things often used, okay, so this is like a checklist for you to just be able to use: reflexive property, angle pairs, CPCTC, all the postulates, perpendicular, vertical angles, midpoint, bisector, all these things. These are things that we can use within the proofs, okay? We have the third angles theorem, okay? So if two angles of one triangle are congruent to two angles of another triangle, then the third angle of the two triangles must be equal also. So we have that at our disposal. And now we have some practice. Yay for practice. What I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to pause the video here and try to work your way through the proofs that you have. And then, and I want you to do them all, guys. I want you to do this one. I want you, as much as you can of each of these proofs. I want you to do them all, and then come back when you're done with all of these and unpause the video, and I'll show you my answers. But it doesn't work if you don't pause the video first. So go through and do 1 through 6, and then unpause the video, and I'll show you what I got. Go ahead and pause the video now. All right, so we're going to go through the answers. If you don't have what I have, see if you can figure out how I got it. If you can't figure it out, make sure you ask your teacher in class, and they'll walk you through it, okay? Here I got that was given, obviously. This was by the definition of midpoint. That was also by the definition of midpoint. Here was vertical angles, and then side angle side, okay? Feel free to pause the video if you need to catch up. Here we got given. This was the definition of midpoint again. That's the reflexive property. Here, that was part of the given. It was part of the diagram. And side, side, side. Here we start going back and forth. I like when we do this because then we got to think about what to do first. BDA equals 90 and BDC equals 90. Okay, so I know we've said they're perpendicular, but what does that mean? Well, I know they're 90 because of the definition of perpendicular. ADB is congruent to CDB. Well, that's just substitution. And here, this is ADB. You guys need to know this is ADB also. I could just write ADB. That's the same angle. And I could write CDB here. And so they're equal to each other because of substitution. Here, that's the definition of bisector. We said up top that BD bisects ABC. That's how I know those two angles are congruent. The reflexive property, I'm going to say BD is congruent to BD. And then lastly, ABD is congruent to CBD. All right. Here, KLJ is congruent to MLN because they are vertical. The third angles theorem, that's how I know that K is congruent to M. JKL is congruent to NML because of angle, side angle. And then lastly, that's our first appearance right there of CPCTC. Anytime we prove the triangle is congruent and then we say that one of the corresponding parts is congruent, that's going to be CPCTC. Here you had to come up with both. This is where it got really hard for some of you. I put first, and you don't have to have them in the same order that I have them in, so be patient and wait and see what you have. I said that BD was congruent to BD because of reflexive property. I said that ADB is congruent to CDB, and I know that because of the definition of right angles. Right angles means they're both 90, and if they're both 90, they're congruent. And then I said the triangles were congruent by side, angle, side. So if you have something like that in that order, or not in that order, it still should be correct. Lastly, that's the given. That was pretty easy. MO is congruent to MO because of the reflexive property. Then I said that MPO, that the two triangles were congruent because of side, side, side. And lastly, N to P from CPCTC. And that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video notes. Hopefully they were helpful. If you have questions, make sure you ask, and we'll get them taken care of. See you next time. Bye.